Should I teach people as a filmmaker, even though I'm talking to you, I'm still playing to the camera. Okay.
You want to wait for Miss Ariel or? Okay. The mics are good? Okay. So, can you state your name and what party you're running for me, please?
My name is Warren Bloom. I'm running as a Democrat for mayor of for the 100th mayor of the city of Philadelphia.
And tell me, what inspired you to run for me?
Actually, the first time I ran for office was in 2003. I ran for voting commissioner after serving 16 and a half years as a committee person in the 11th Ward and the 11th Division. But I'm a licensed minister, so I get really my inspiration from the Lord, quote unquote. So the scripture says my steps are really ordered of the Lord. And I asked him the first time I ran, why would you put me in the most dirtiest game in the world? But I have to trust God's sovereign wisdom that he knows what he's doing. So I'm just trusting his lead, but nevertheless, not my will, but his will be done in my life. But I truly love the city. And again, I started out my career as public service as a block captain about 40 years ago. And you know, the block captain's job is to simply get on your nerves enough so you can keep your street clean. I tell people, if your block captain's not getting on your nerves, he's not doing his job. So I'm very passionate about a clean city. I do not like the term Philadelphia, but it's everybody's responsibility to do your part to help keep the city clean and safe.
So your plan as mayor is to help clean the city up?
Literally clean the city up, and really the mayor's job is really I'm going to use these two dynamics. The first thing the mayor's job is to do is to administrate, to delegate, and create policy. Also, the mayor needs to be a spiritual mother or father, in a sense, to a city. To inspire the city, let people know that they can have a safe city, that they can have a city that cares about their needs, and that we want the best in the quality of life for our family and our loved ones and ourselves, so we can thrive as a community.
So how do you plan to be a spiritual father for the city and inspire people?
Well, what I want to do is I want to have a daily scripture that we can all pray corporately. One of my scriptures is found in, I think this is going to be the mantra of my scripture. It's Psalms 127. And it talks about, unless the Lord keeps the city, unless the Lord builds the city, they labor in vain that build it. And unless the Lord keeps watch over the city, the watchman watches in vain. In other words, God has said, unless he truly watches the city, all our efforts are futile, because only God can truly keep the city safe.
So, do you plan on spreading your ideals throughout the city?
Yes, I'm going to be launching public service announcements. My background is in media. I told you earlier, I am a filmmaker, a photographer and everything. If you go online, go on YouTube, you may find one of my pieces recently. It was called Trump's Gross Ignorance. And it talks about how it was back in the day when he was telling people, a couple of years ago, he was telling people to take Lysol or something. If you remember that.
Yeah,
he was telling people to ingest Lysol and in whatever context it was, but but I think on a more serious note that the mayor has to be a person who has to be honest, transparent, and be nurturing. That's what a father is, and that's what a true leader is. You have to nurture people and let them know that they can be anything they want to, and he has to be a peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers, Jesus said, for they shall be called the children of God. So in an adversarial situation, a peacemaker has to calm the situation and get back to resolution.
So you talk about a lot about making peace. So how do you plan on incorporating your plan with peacemaking with the police? How do they fit into this plan?
Well, Philadelphia's finest. I'm an advocate for Philadelphia's finest fire and police officers who really put their lives on the line for you and I. A police officer is really saying, for all intents and purposes, I'm ready, or I'm committed to taking a bullet for you. It's not an easy job, and police officers don't get the credit they deserve. I know this. We know one bad cop is too many, and we know there's some bad cops, but the majority of men and women who serves on the Philadelphia Police Department do it sincerely because it's a calling on their lives, really. God chooses and puts it in the heart, just like he puts it in the heart for politicians to be in service. He puts it in the heart of police officers to fill that mandate. That's what I believe spiritually. So I want to be able to encourage police officers. They have my support, number one. They have my 100% support, but they have to be accountable for their actions, and they will be held accountable for their actions. And I'm going to demand that. And I'm just going to try to keep a sense of civility in this city. And you know, our greatest assets, obviously, is our youth, our future. And that's going to be my focus. I am the only candidate who said he would appoint youth and young adult to my cabinet to help them administrate in the offices of the government.
And what exactly is your specific plan for the youth? Because you say you're going to appoint them to the cabinet.
Yes, children who qualify, because first thing I'm going to be doing is visiting all the public and charter schools. I've already visited some, and we have some smart children. We got some smart kids out here, trust me. And a lot of these children, they are up against it. They're dealing with this stuff in real time. They're dealing with parental issues. They're dealing with hunger. They're dealing with a lot of number of issues. And I said most of these children today are probably smarter than all the candidates put together. Trust me. Believe it or not, most of these kids, especially, you know, with today's technology, they've been exposed to a lot more stuff than my generation. So, but I believe children have clarity in their vision and the innocency of a child. They're not corrupt. They're not worried about promotion. They're not worried about finances and stuff like that. But they simply want to be acknowledged and heard for what they can contribute. So I'm going to be literally asking the students and the principals what children who would like to work with my cabinet, who they could be. They'd have to be at least 11, starting at age 11. And if they're 10 and they'll be 11 before the year is out, they can qualify as well. But they have to be at least age 11. Taking you back to scripture again, Jesus was found in the temple after his parents forgot he was with them. A lot of you heard of that story. He was in the temple after 3 days going back to Jerusalem after the feast. They discovered Jesus was not with them. So they went back to Jerusalem looking for Jesus. And he said, didn't you know I would be in my Father's house because I got to be about my Father's business? They have a famous picture. You can look it up. Jesus confounding the doctors and the lawyers at that time with his questioning and his knowledge of Scripture. He was only about 11 to 12 years old. So children have a lot of knowledge, and that's why I want to capitalize on that.
Thanks. So, when you were young, were there any specific people that influenced you, or any books in general that you got knowledge from?
Well, to be honest, I probably didn't do as much reading as I should have, but I was just raised in a nurturing type of family, by and large a single parent home. My mother was in the nursing business, and she was a registered nurse. So if you're a nurse, you know, that means you like people. You gotta like people if you're a nurse or a doctor. to hang around with people and do that. So my mother had 4 boys. It was 4 boys of us. So even back in the day, it wasn't easy raising 4 boys and 1 girl. So my mother was committed to keeping us at home. So she said, this is what I'm going to do. If you guys are going to do anything, you're going to do it here. So I'm a musician. She provided me with some drums. My brother is a musician. He wrote Double Dutch Bus, if y'all familiar with that song. That's what Snoop Dogg got his Bazizzle Chisel from. Give me a hoe if you got your funky bus pass. That's Philadelphia Pig Latin. They used the Bazizzle, Snizzle, Chisel in that song. So my brother's Bill Bloom. You can look him up. He wrote that song along with Frankie Smith. So we had a pool table in our basement. So my mother, I remember spending $2,000. Can you imagine how much $2,000 was back in the 70s for a pool table? That was tantamount to about almost $10,000 right now. But she gave us a quality pool table, so everybody hung out at our house. Everybody in the neighborhood shot pool, played drums, played the organ and the piano in my house. So, you know, everybody hung out at our house, and that's what kept us out of trouble.
Nice. So, what would you say to the youth right now to convince them to vote for you?
Well, what I want to tell them is, first of all, Psalm 75, 6 and 7 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. But if you acknowledge him in all your ways, he will direct your path. I'm asking children to pray about the decisions they're making. Also, I want to bring back prayer into the schools. I was in 3rd grade when they took prayer out of the schools. I wasn't saved then, and my mother wasn't taking us to church. I remember my teacher crying when they took prayer out of the school. I didn't understand what she was crying about. But the first time I really heard the Bible was simply in school. Every morning, we used to read the 23rd and the 24th Psalm. You know, that's the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And the 24th Psalm, it says, lift up your head, O ye gates. So I'm asking people to simply pray who you want to be the next mayor. If you seek God's guidance, can a person be truly balanced, healthy, and well-balanced without a prayer life? I don't think so personally, but unless we get back to the real fundamentals and the tenements of morality and godliness, we're seeing the deterioration of our society as we're seeing it today.
We close it?
Yeah.
I guess I couldn't hear because I'm doing other stuff, but do you have like one clear thing that you feel like you want to let people know about what we've seen this year, like the car race? Like, is there one thing that you feel like you want to mention or you want to let people know about how it was related and helped?
Okay. All right. So, the first thing I want to do personally, and I hope this doesn't sound biased, is I want to stop black on black crime in our community, and also I want to focus on the only way you overcome evil is simply with good. I'm going to be asking people to come together because we are the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. The scripture says love never fails. I'm on the love frequency. I'm not coming down. I hope to get everybody on that frequency with me. I'll be launching a full-scale assault on public service announcements, talking about goodness, positive affirmations, having citizens like yourself saying, hey, my name is Jose from Manayunk or wherever. Philly, show the love. That type of thing. Being very creative and public service announcements over and over and over again. And if you hear it long enough, I believe you'll do it because it's going to be very positive and upbeat. And I think the mayor needs to have a sense of humor because if you don't, you will be depressed in this very, very toxic and violent environment we're living in right now.
And then, is there anything else that you'd like to say or no?
I simply want people to do the right thing and vote for Bloom in the spring. And if you're tired of the gloom, vote for Bloom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. I think that was good. Yep.